You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime year.
Sports radio catered to the ones who call America's finest city home.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
The Braden Surprenant Show starts now.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
Good morning, San Diego. Welcome to the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning, right here on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan, multi-platform medium. For all of you watching on YouTube, watching on Twitter, or X, whatever it's called now, Instagram, all that stuff. And then all of you listening traditionally live on your local radio. Thanks again for making our day a part of yours. Got a great show planned today on the Braden Surprenant Show. A lot of it having to do with a new Padre in Luis Arraez. Luis Arraez has arrived in San Diego as a trade went down Friday night between the Padres and the Miami Marlins as the Padres acquired one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball. One of the best pure hitters in Major League Baseball in Luis Arraez. And man, did he come out to a great start. Absolutely unbelievable start to his Padres career by going 4 for 6 last night with 2 runs scored and an RBI. I'm going to have a full breakdown of that in just a little bit. But this is a great move by the Padres front office and for A.J. Preller because of kind of a multitude of things. You know, when the season started, you got through spring training, and really, before they acquired Dylan Cease, the narrative of this team is, and to be honest with you, it was legit. It was a 4th place team, as constructed. And then A.J. Preller goes out, and he gets Dylan Cease, who isn't making a lot of money, in comparison, especially in comparison to what he is worth, where he's getting $8 million in arbitration. He's ARB eligible again next year and then a free agent in 2026. But not breaking the bank because, again, what was the conversation of this season for the Padres? It was, we got to stay underneath the competitive balance tax. We got to stay underneath the competitive balance tax. And so they go out and they get a frontline starter in Dylan Cease, and they stay underneath the CBT. Raises it a little bit, but not too bad. And now all of a sudden you had 4 starting pitchers to start the season at least that you would think on paper that are good enough to win you playoff games. They went from a rotation that could get you to the playoffs to a rotation that can win for you in the playoffs. Again, this is before maybe some injuries, you know, kind of the setback of Joe Musgrove at the beginning part of the year, although he had a great bounce back this week. And so all of a sudden, you jumped up a little bit. So now you're a team that's competing for a wild card spot instead of the 4th place team at the beginning of the season. And as the season had started, and it's still kind of that way for right now, because they're still sitting at 500 right now. But as we have talked about on the Andy Nelson show, as I have said it on this show, it's a mediocre team, right? Where they win some and then they lose some. They win some games against some teams they shouldn't. They lose some games against some teams they shouldn't. You know, kind of up and down. That's what mediocre teams do. They have the talent to beat really good teams, yet they lack the depth to go on long runs. That's what the San Diego Padres have been in 2024. A very mediocre baseball team. Got a lot of talent, but they lack the depth. And then they acquired Luis Arraez on Friday night. I love this for multiple reasons. One, they were talking about it and talking with the Marlins for a long period of time during the offseason. But in a lot of those talks, they were talking about potentially parting ways with Hoseong Kim in that trade. But they kept the talks going. A.J. Preller, knowing that he has to stay underneath the CBT, knowing that he's not going to be a guy that's going to blow up the entire farm, at least not yet, to acquire a guy like Luis Arraez, who has the remainder of 2024 and all of 2025. before he's a free agent in 2026. Prospects lined up on a deal. Miami, apparently, and I got some sound from their president of baseball operations that we could play, and you could tell me if you'd rather have A.J. Preller in charge or this guy in charge. But he said things aligned, and it was an offer that we couldn't say no to anymore. And so Preller jumps at the opportunity, and he brings in Luis Arraez. Luis Arraez has had comparisons to Tony Gwynn over his career. You can see all the stats, and until you put together a year that or a career that Tony has, it's very tough to compare yourself to Mr. Padre. But his swing, the way he could take the ball the other way, the way he's just a pure hitter who's won multiple batting titles already and is only 27 years old. And I think the stat, too, that they threw out was in the first 500 and however many games he's played already, first 560-something games in Luis Arraez's career, his numbers with Tony Gwynn are like the exact same. I mean, they are like the exact same, which is great to see. I think a lot of Padres fans can't wait. Can't wait to see this guy play at Petco Park and have that, Tony swing and be able to see a guy like Tony again, especially in a day and age where you just don't see players like that anymore. You don't see too many players and guys like Luis Arraez anymore in this era of hitting the long ball and striking out a ton. But his first 570 games played in Major League Baseball, very comparative to Tony Gwynn, which you love to see. So anyway, you make the trade with the Miami Marlins for Luis Arraez, and you do it early enough in the season where, you address the need. You don't wait for the trade deadline where you only have 2 months left in the season, and he's trying to gel, and he's trying to get to know new players, and you have the pressure of we're in a playoff race, and we got to go win. We can't just putter around. It's go time. You go out there and you address the need earlier in the season. I love that aspect of it too. And we could talk about that 8 different ways as well. But on top of that, not only do you bring in Luis Arraez, he's one of the best hitters in Major League Baseball, you actually lowered your payroll in doing so. The Marlins are going to pay for his contract, except for the league minimum. All the Padres have to pay Luis Arraez is league minimum. You cut ties with Lusak Go and $4.5 million that the Marlins are also paying for. And you get Luis Arraez back. It's amazing. You couldn't ask for a better deal if you're the Padres. If you go on the estimated payroll on Fangraphs, they actually dropped $1 million. Gives you more opportunity to spend elsewhere, maybe at the trade deadline. There's still a couple of holes on this team, but Luis Arraez lengthens that lineup so much. So much. Because now you got guys that should be hitting lower in the order, now hitting in spots that they should be hitting in. Luis Arraez is the leadoff guy. You go Fernando 2, Cronenworth 3 right now. Manny Machado's in the 4 spot. Profar's batting 5th, who he continues to be unreal at the plate. And then you got a guy like Xander Bogaerts batting 6th. I mean, I know Xander's going to turn it around. He's going to turn it around. His track record says so. He's obviously thinking way too much about a lot of different things. I mean, you could talk about whatever. Yeah, you could say, he's just getting older now and all this other stuff. But here's the reality of it. Here's the reality of it. Xander Bogaerts, when he is talking to the media about he's changing his swing in the middle of an at-bat, that is a sign this guy is thinking way too much. Because he's a guy that's a pro that wants to do really well, that's always had success, that can't stand the fact that he's not doing well right now, and he's thinking way too much at the plate. I don't know about you, but if you're trying to, let's talk about your golf game out there. All you golfers out there, you try to swing and you're thinking about your swing, where does that shot go? It goes nowhere. You got to slice, you top the ball, you overswing. I mean, it's just a disaster. Do not think when you swing. Same thing is the case for, when you play softball, you play baseball. You try to go up there and hack while thinking it's not going to end well for you. It's not. You can't be thinking too much, and that's obviously the case with Xander. I mean, he's like, I suck right now. I'm not playing well. He's trying to fix it. And he's the type of guy where his biggest problem, because this is the guy that he is, his biggest problem is going to work too hard. He's going to work way too hard. Him and Joe Musgrove, those two guys they're pros beyond belief. They might work too hard. So, obviously, Joe's turning it around, but I think Xander's going to turn around. But right now, the fact that you got a two-time World Series champion, an MVP award winner, I mean, the accolades that Xander has are incredible. And now he's batting sixth in your lineup. That is drastically different than what the lineups were at the beginning part of the year. And they still have room to make moves. That's the best part about this entire thing. It's not like this is the only move that they can make because they can't afford anything else. I got a feeling with the level of expectations, the level of, I wouldn't say pressure, but pressure for the front office to win, especially after last year, they're going to be making some moves, but they're going to be targeting some guys without some big contracts. So I'm curious to see who they decide to go with for next. But this Luis Arraez trade, love it. Absolutely love it. You added a left-handed hitter, you added a contact hitter to this lineup. You got a guy that doesn't strike out a lot, and it just lengthens your lineup from top to bottom. And we already saw that yesterday. How many times have you seen the Padres trade for a guy, and then their first 10 at-bats, it's just an absolute disaster? I mean, he didn't even take that long to get going. I mean, it was like, what do you see, one pitch, two pitches, and all of a sudden you roped a double down the right field line, and you started off the night with Luis Arraez standing on second base. Tatis got hosed on his first at-bat. Otherwise, that could have been a huge inning for the Padres. Huge inning. Cronenworth was 2 for 6 last night. Machado 2 for 4. Profar 3 for 4. He's hitting 347 right now. Bogart's 1 for 5. Merrill 2 for 4. Campusano 1 for 4. Kim 1 for 5. Outstanding. The love that they had for Luis Arraez already at the beginning part of the game. After that double, it was great. And you could tell on Arraez's face, he is so happy to get out of Miami. So happy to get out of Miami. I mean, Miami right now is competing with the White Sox to be the worst team in Major League Baseball. And they just became 10 times worse without having Luis Arraez. And I'm sure their fans are fuming right now because he was a fan favorite down in Miami. That's the other thing, too. He's such a great individual. People love being teammates with this guy. So you add a good clubhouse guy, you got a good stick in the lineup, you got a versatile player. I mean, he's played left field, second base, first base. You could put him almost anywhere to go with the rest of the infielders. You got guys that can have days off. Now you have a bench piece with some of these players. I mean, you're adding a lot to this team with the addition of Luis Arraez. I love the move for the Padres. Love the move for the Padres. We're going to talk more about this trade. I want to get some of your takes on the show as well. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to dive deeper into the trade details as well. But Padres fans, let me know what you think about this new lineup with Luis Arraez at the top. You can comment on the YouTube page. If you haven't liked it yet, hit the like button on our YouTube show. Be sure to follow me on YouTube as well at @B_SURP. I'm on all social media platforms like that. We're streaming live on Instagram. Shout out to all of you that are watching on IG. Shout out to all of you watching on Twitter. Wherever you may be finding us today, I want your reaction. I want your weigh in on what the Padres are like now. You know, I said they were a mediocre team before the addition of Luis Arraez. I think that's slowly starting to change. And they got to keep building on this momentum after winning, was that 4 straight games? 3 or 4 straight games already? If they could win today, that basically erases what happened against Philadelphia last weekend. Want to get your thoughts. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Off and running here on the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
The free Odyssey app allows you to
I wish the YouTube could hear the music back. So much fun. I play some of my favorite music coming back all the time. Blink-182, Ghost on the Dance Floor is what we got right now. Braden Surprenant Show live and local each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10, talking Padres baseball with you. Love that we get to do this, guys. Talk about the Padres on a Sunday morning. Talk about San Diego sports on a Sunday morning instead of, who won the draft. And I you know what? I love the NFL. I love draft talk when we had a team, probably a little bit more than than now. And there's a time and place for a lot of things. I mean, if it was up to me, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I could talk, obviously Padres the most just because, and I'm not talking in comparison to other people. I'm talking about just from my standpoint. Padres baseball is up there, being a lifelong fan of the team, being born and raised here in San Diego. But I tell you what, I could do a show every single day for 4 hours on college and high school football. I could do that every day. I could talk about college football every day, even during the off season. Down in the South in the SEC, they could talk about it. They talk about recruiting. They talk about conference realignment, all that stuff. I could do that every single day. Now, time and a place, obviously. You guys, not as much. It's fine. Into college football, San Diego in general, not a huge college football town. I'd love to get the Aztecs going, but I could talk about that all day long. I think I had a little bit more passion for college football after the Chargers left and being a part of a college football team that was really good when I was in college. I could talk high school football too. But that's not going to be till the fall. That's my guy Top Dog's in the chat. When are we going to do high school football again? I got to get going on that. All of that content will be on my YouTube page as well as 97.3 The Fan. Not a lot of that's going to be over the airwaves here at 97.3. I'm pushing to try to get maybe a high school show back. But I could talk about that stuff all day long. I could also talk about Padres baseball all day long, and I'm glad that we get to talk local sports here on a weekend when you're driving around. There's nothing worse. Think about this. There is nothing worse, right, Padres fans? A.J. Preller makes a trade on a Friday night, and then you got nothing on the weekend. You got nothing on the weekend. You got the pre and post, obviously, with Sam, but that's only an hour for both. You got nothing on the weekend to talk about this big trade. Do you think anybody on the national radio that we play is talking about this trade? No, they're talking about the NBA playoffs. They're talking about the NHL playoffs. This is the place on Sunday mornings to get all your Padres talk in. And I want to get to some of your phone calls before we really start breaking down this trade. And I don't know what the Padres gave up in order to make this thing happen. But as I mentioned before, absolutely love this trade for the Padres. At first, I was a little like, all right, we're giving up prospects again for Arraez. But, I was trying to call a softball game, USD softball against St. Mary's on Friday. My phone starts blowing up. I'm getting tweets sent to me, text messages. It's popping up on my laptop. Trying to focus on a game. People wanted my take. And I'm like, relax. Let me digest this for a second. I was like, four players for Arraez take on his contract. But now, you get all the details out and the dust is settled. Love the trade. What do you guys think? 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Longtime caller of 97.3 The Fan. Kathy in Los Angeles, big Padres fan. Kathy, what's going on?
Hey, Braden. What I was going to say cracks me up, but actually kind of ticks me off is the overreaction from other fan bases. There's like somebody on X or that's put up this thing about how it was illegal, the whole move was illegal or against the rules, and how that Major League Baseball needs to reject this. And it's just like, but if the Dodgers or the Yankees had done something like that, it's the best thing for baseball.
That's right.
It's just like, so when the Padres do it, it's bad.
That does get annoying. But we've talked about that before in the past. Players get lost down here in the southwest corner of the United States, in San Diego and in Anaheim. And I think, the narrative is with Major League Baseball. I mean, that's why you got guys like Brian Kenny popping off on how the Padres should be rebuilding right now, right? We've had that conversation multiple times too. But it's. I think Padres fans, and here's the deal. I think you got to learn to just embrace it and understand that you're never going to get that type of recognition, even if you win, just because it's all about, in sports media, it's all about who's got the most fans, because at the end of the day, who funds all of sports? And that is TV. And what does TV care about? They care about people that watch their product. And what's the best way to get people to watch your product? Well, you get the fan bases that are the biggest, their teams in on your television to watch your product. I mean, it's not that complicated when you start breaking it down. But the reality is, for Padres fans, until the Padres start getting a fan base that is national or starts to build a brand or continually winning, and I'm going to tell you right now, I've seen that now out of a lot of different events where I'm watching on TV and I go, that kid's wearing a Padres hat and they're in Florida. Or that kid's wearing a Tatis jersey and they're in South Carolina. Or that kid right there is wearing at the time, a Juan Soto Padres jersey and he's up in, Wisconsin. I mean, I see it all the time on games. I remember last year watching a SEC baseball game. I think they were in the SEC tournament, and they're playing out in Florida or something like that. This foul ball goes into they had like an embankment, right, with like a grass area, and like 4 kids go to run down this ball. 2 of them are wearing Padre hats. You're like, why? I mean, and I'm talking about children. I'm not talking about like college kids, because when you see college kids at games wearing like San Diego things, more times than not, they're probably from San Diego. They're just going to school out there. But when you got the youth of America watching and wearing Fernando Tatis Jr. stuff, it's phenomenal. That's how you start growing your base. But you got to, unfortunately for us, I mean, you got to build the fan base up a little bit. And the thing is they're always going to talk about how the big teams need all the best players, and the small market teams need to be, players that, I don't know. They need to be teams that have guys that develop the players for the top teams. It's annoying. I hate it. I don't like it either, Kathy. But that's just unfortunately the reality of the matter. I just don't like the fact, Kathy, that a lot of people like to just pour cold water on all these moves every time from the other perspective. Especially, it's like, for an organization, or should I say a fan base that says they don't care about the Padres. I don't know why the Dodger fans continually have to like weigh in and go, that's the terrible. Just keep your mouth shut and worry about yourself. And I appreciate the phone call, Kathy. Thanks again for chiming in. But I that does get annoying, right? That does get annoying after a while. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Thanks again for all of you guys joining the show today. I want to get more of your phone calls in as much as possible. Get you guys going on the chat as well. What do you guys think about this trade? I think it's great. I think it's great from so many different angles. We've talked about the lineup construction. I mean, I could go through that in just a little bit. I do want to play Peter Bendix, the president of baseball operations, and his response to this. We've heard AJ talk about it already on the pre and post game show over the weekend. Obviously, AJ is the type of guy, I like AJ, but he ain't going to tell you anything. I mean, he doesn't tell you anything, which is fine. I don't need my general manager saying anything that he doesn't need to say. But I thought it was very interesting to hear what Peter Bendix had to say, the president of baseball ops of the Marlins. Because this deal to me, and we're going to talk about what the Padres gave up to acquire Luis Arraez. We'll talk about it. I mean, I thought Kyle Glazier had the greatest explanation of it. And this is a guy that knows the minor leagues in and out. But he gave up Dylan Head, who has comps to Cedric Mullins, right? He has comps to Cedric Mullins, which is, comps are comps. But even if Dylan Head turns into Cedric Mullins, let's just say he does, and he lives up to the comp, he's still in low A ball. He's still like 5 or 6 years away from being a contributing factor. And so with all of these moves, I think the same thing can be said about the Juan Soto trade. And look, here's the deal. I still think that was a good move at the time. I'm not going to go hindsight 2020 on you because at the end of the day, the Padres got to the NLCS with that move. I would have liked to have Juan Soto another year. I understand the money aspect of this, obviously. But that move at the time was good because over those 3 years, right? Even though you ended up trading Juan Soto before you finished the 3 years of the team control, who was going to give you a better shot at winning a World Series? Juan Soto or C.J. Abrams? You don't even have to answer that. I know the answer. It's Juan Soto. He's going to give you the best shot of winning a World Series during that time frame, not C.J. Even though C.J.'s playing a lot better now, right? He's not the guy that you needed at that time. And you're trying to go for a World Series. You're trying to win. And I understand trying to hang on to as many of the top prospects in your organization as possible, but sometimes you do have to give up something good to get something good in return. So when you evaluate these trades, I thought the Dylan Cease trade was great too. I think he's hit twice now, especially with the filters that he's got on what he has to handle, A.J. Preller, in order to make some of these moves happen, and that's stay underneath the CBT. But acquiring Dylan Cease is great because he's a top-end starter and he doesn't cost a lot of money. Acquiring Luis Arraez is fantastic. Why? Because it didn't cost you a lot and he doesn't cost you a lot of money. You got two players in Double-A, and Martorella and Jacob Marcy, that are both guys that are projected to be future bench pieces in Major League Baseball. If they do better than that, fantastic, whatever. But again, as I said, during the time of the contract of the player that you acquire, compared to what you are giving up, who gives you a better chance during that window to win a World Series? That's whether or not you, at the beginning part of these trades, you win the trade. At the end of the day, I mean, you want to go hindsight, 3-4 years down the road, right? And with some of these moves and go, well, he ended up not winning a World Series, so he didn't really win out. Well, here's the other thing, too, because I think a lot of people have been starting to turn on AJ's move to acquire Juan Soto just because of the fact that C.J. Abrams is off to a good start, which you were expecting him to do because he's like 20-something years old. I mean, you brought him up when he was 20. He's now had 3 years in the pros. He's like 23. Yeah, he's going to be good. He's a first-round draft pick. Same thing with Mackenzie Gore. They're figuring it out. But the same thing goes for that team that acquires him. If the Nationals are beating you for a World Series in the next couple of years, and you ended up getting nothing out of it, and you didn't get any World Series out of it, then you could say, all right, well, you lost the trade. If the Nationals use those players to beat you in the postseason in the next 3 or 4 years. But with this one, too, you got two guys in Martorella and Marcy that are projected to be bench players. You have Dylan Head, who was a first-round draft pick last year that has comps to Cedric Mullins. He's a low-A guy. He's well ways away from contributing at a major league level. And then you cut $4.5 million off the cap it's not a cap. They don't have a salary cap. Off the CBT by trading away Woo-Suck-Go, who, by the way, you signed during the... People are like, well, what kind of pitcher is he? This is all you need to know about Woo-Suck-Go. You signed him to be part of your bullpen this offseason. He didn't even make the team out of camp. He didn't even make the team. That's all you need to know about him. So you cut $4.5 million out of it. You get rid of... You had to give up a big prospect. That big guy is Dylan Head. Okay, Marlins' window of winning is definitely not within the next 3 years. It's way in the future, especially after they got rid of Kim Ng, and they've been a disaster this year. And then you got two future bench pieces. That's great. And you get Luis Arraez back, the best hitter in baseball, the best pure hitter in baseball. A lefty, top of the order, changes the dynamic of everything. I really don't know what the Marlins were thinking. You know what? If you make that move, it's fine. At least you could be like, we're cutting $10 million off the payroll. But they're not even doing that. They're paying for the contract. That's the best part of this entire deal. They're paying for the contract. So you could consider this a salary dump for the Padres. This is a salary dump for the Padres. They actually lowered their payroll for making this trade. That's why, like, some of the national hate, I can't believe, Kathy brought up a good point. I could not believe some of the national media members, not all of them, because a lot of them did think it was a good deal, but saying this is a terrible deal and all this other stuff. Are you kidding me? At the very worst, they cut payroll. That's great. Gives them an extra $1 million they could spend at the deadline. Maybe the A's start to lose it a little bit and go get their bullpen pieces. They're two guys in the back end that are just dominant. I love this trade. This is great. I'm fired up on a Sunday morning. So fired up, blew through the break. We got to take a quick timeout. Chris is online. Carlos is online. We're going to get to your phone calls when we come back. We're also going to hear from the Marlins' perspective on this trade when we return on the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Fired up on a Sunday morning, San Diego Padres with a 13-1 drubbing over the Arizona Rattlebacks yesterday. Great to see this Padres team playing. I love the way Luis Arraez joined the club yesterday, immediately made an impact. Braden Surprenant here on the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan, talking local Padres on the weekend. A lot better than national media, especially the ones that want to bash the trade and say it would have been better if he was on a bigger team, bigger market. Yeah, yada, yada, yada. Nobody cares. Enough. Oh, is Fernando Tatis Jr.'s contract tradable? I don't know. Maybe he needs to be on a big market team. No, shut up. We're done here. It's live and local with Braden Surprenant each and every Sunday. If you're on the YouTube, thanks again for tuning in. Love everybody tuning in on the weekends. We're here each and every Sunday from 8 to 10. I do have a couple of Sundays coming up, or actually just one coming up, where I'll be off due to my brother's graduating from the University of Tennessee in a couple of weeks. So we're going to be taking a little trip out there. Aside from that, we are going to be on each and every Sunday for the rest of the season, during college football season, during the NFL in the fall. It's going to be a great time on the Braden Surprenant Show. If you haven't done it yet on YouTube, hit the like button to help us out. For all of you watching on YouTube, we appreciate that. Follow me on social media, B_SURP. You can follow me on X. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, which I got to post more TikToks. I haven't done that in a long time. And YouTube at BSurp. I am on all of those platforms, as well as you can follow the Fan, 97 through the Fan SD. But be sure to hit the like button. Let's get the algorithm going. And we're talking Padres baseball. Want to get back to your phone calls, too. I see everybody in the chat. I'm trying to keep up on what you guys are talking about. A lot of good chatter. So what's up to all of you in the YouTube chat? Appreciate all of you. But want to get back to the phones. Got a couple of guys named Chris waiting online. Let's go with Chris, a.k.a. Top Dog from San Diego, joining the Braden Surprenant Show. Chris, what's going on?
What's good, my guy? First of all, I just want to start off this call by saying it is such a pleasure to be on the phone with the most underrated local and national sports guy that I know. You work so hard on all these different platforms, whether it's Padres, whether it's USD, no matter what you're involved in, you always give 110%. As a fan, I appreciate that, man.
Well, I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you very much.
So 2 things I want to talk about. First of all, Juan Soto trade. Digress about a little bit about that. Second thing is the Luis trade. First of all, to all the fans out there that said the Juan Soto trade was a bust, disagree. At the time, we had to make a move. Great move to go out and get a guy who was an MVP caliber guy. Didn't quite work out. We didn't get the World Series we were looking for. But at that time, you got to make a move. A.J. Preller did what he thought was in the best interest of the ball club to get us across the finish line. Didn't pan out. I had to sell my Juan Soto Padres jersey. Disappointed about that. Would have liked to see him be a Padre for longer, but I get it. Cut payroll, move on. This Luis Arraez trade, who in the hell doesn't think this is a good trade? If they don't think this is a good trade, they don't understand baseball. You cut the payroll, you get a guy like Luis, who's a legitimate contact hitter, gives us a presence at the top of the lineup. It's phenomenal for the Padres. And every once in a while, A.J. Preller, who's got his finger on the pulse of baseball, sees something like this, and the average fan goes, because it makes you wake up and realize that you have to make a change with the chemistry of a ball club to get your guys motivated. So my question to you and all the guys out there is, who's the odd man out? Is it going to be Xander?
Oh, in the infield, you know what? To me, I think this is an end of the year thing. They can't move Xander. I mean, he's got a full no trade clause. It's going to be impossible to move his contract. I mean, even if he was playing really well, it's going to be impossible to move his contract. So he's on the team. You got him for the next 10 years. To me, we kind of broke it down this week with the on Andy and Elston about the Padres' inability to hit a fastball, and Hoseong Kim is the worst at hitting a fastball on the team. With I'm surprised by Jake Cronenworth's numbers, but Hoseong Kim on there, he is the worst at hitting a fastball, and he's already around 29 years old. It's not going to get any better in the next couple of years. Somebody's going to give him a decent amount of money. I honestly think Hoseong Kim at the end of the year is probably the odd man out when it comes to the infield. And I think that's the way that the Padres end up saving money because he's not going to opt into the $8 million in the mutual agreement with the Pods, and I don't think the Padres are either. And you're going to have a situation where I think Hoseong Kim's probably the odd man out in that infield.
Sounds good to me.
Well, I appreciate the phone call, TD. We'll talk soon.
Yes, sir.
Thanks again for Top Dog Chris joining in on the Braden Surprenant Show. Really appreciate that. I honestly think Kim is the odd man out. I know he's beloved. I know fans love him, but I mean, here's the deal. Here's my question to you. Maybe this is mean. I'm just going to ask. When his average, where is it at right now? He's hitting 211. If his average dips below 200, I mean, are you still trying to keep this guy on the team? I mean, seriously. And look at his numbers. And I'm just saying in the future, you can't give that guy a long-term deal. You can't. I mean, you don't have first of all, you don't really have the money to do so. And if you're going to spend money on a long-term guy, I mean, it's not him. I know he hit a 3-run homer. He's a pro. I mean, he's better than if one of us went out there and swung the bat, obviously. But he's hitting 211. He's got one of the worst batting averages and expected batting averages against the fastball on the Padres. And if that fastball goes over 94, if it goes 94 or above, he's hitting 210 in his career. If you even look at last year, right? Look at last year's numbers. He was great last year, right? He still couldn't hit a fastball last year. And if it wasn't for, he got a knock against Ashcraft during this week, it like doubled his batting average against the fastball. You can't invest a lot of money in that guy. I'm sorry. You can't do that. And for people that think he's not going to be expensive, he is. He's going to be a shortstop. He's going to go on the market as a shortstop, and teams are going to look at some of his numbers. Some team is going to give that guy a decent amount of money that the Padres can't afford to have this guy be just a bench piece. It doesn't make financial sense. If the Padres had all this money to spend, yeah, sure, go ahead. But I just think he's the odd man out. I'm telling you, go look at his Baseball Savant page. It's not good against the fastball. It's just not. He had a really good year last year. Just talk about his numbers. I mean, Kim's a fun vibe on the team. Players love him. Fans love him. Plays a great defensive shortstop. But you can't be sitting here telling me like, yeah, man, we need to really sign this guy to a long-term deal. He's batting .211. You can say what you want about Xander Bogaerts. He's already under contract. I mean, you already made that decision. But the difference between Xander and Hoseong Kim is Xander has a track record, and Hoseong Kim does not. Hoseong Kim has one year. He's got 1 year that he's been really good. And I think he's done a good job in a Padres uniform. I mean, for what you're paying him on this deal, he's contributed to this Padres team. But there's some times where at the end of the year you should be like, you know what? We got to cut it off. He does deserve to get paid somewhere else. I mean, you can't pay players. I'm seeing the tech. I mean, there's a lot of Kim fans in the YouTube chat. I see it. I understand. I don't hate Hoseong Kim, but I'm just saying you can't give a guy a contract for something that he did in the past and not what he's going to do for you in the future. And the way Hoseong Kim is progressing in terms of his numbers, especially against the fastball, with everybody's velo cranking up, I'm just saying. That might be a bad just because he did very well. It's like, you know what? Thanks for the memories. We're going to move on. Look at the Braves. I keep bringing up the Braves because Anthopoulos has been doing an absolute stellar job. Absolute stellar job in Atlanta with the roster construction. I'm going to tell you right now, when it's time for Ozzie Albies and Ronald Acuna Jr. to be free agents, I'm telling you right now, Atlanta's not going to be the highest bidder. They're not. They're going to move on to the next thing. They're not going to pay those guys for what they did. They're going to pay them for what they're going to do. Albies is already 27 years old. He's going to be around 30 by the time his contract's over. They even got 2 club options on him. They're going to let him walk. Acuna is a phenomenal baseball player. He's 26 right now. He'll be 27 in 2025, 28, 29, 30. He's going to be a free agent when he's 30 years old. I'm going to tell you right now, the contract that he's probably going to be offered is going to be huge, and I don't think Atlanta is going to be the one that gives it to him. And Ronald Acuna Jr. is 10 times better than Hoseong Kim is. This is the prime years of Hoseong Kim, not the next 3 or 4. You cannot re-sign him at the end of the season. He's the odd man out after acquiring Arraez. I would much rather have Arraez long-term than Hoseong Kim. And again, that's going to go against the norm of the fans because he is a fan favorite. I'm not saying he's not. But are you willing to hemorrhage the future just to have him on the team for vibes? I mean, if you are, go ahead. I don't see it. He's got great defense. That's fine. He does have great defense. Nobody's arguing with that. But the amount of money, the thing is people, you have to understand how much money he's going to get. Now, this year's going to cut it down a little bit, but he is a free agent entering at the same time Xander Bogaerts did as a shortstop. He's going to be getting like $100-something million. You're not going to be able to pay, especially in this day and age. He's not getting $8 million a year because the Padres have a mutual option at $8 million. He's not going to get that. He's going to get like $15 to $20 million. You want to give a guy that might not even like be you just want to give a defensive player $15 to $20 million a year? No, thank you. Braden Surprenant Show will continue the conversation. Bob, Chris, stay on hold. We're going to get to you when we come back. Braden Surprenant Show live and local, 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back to the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local, each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10. Great conversation in the chat. We're talking a lot of different things of what the Padres could do, obviously roster construction and other things like that. After the trade for Luis Arraez, I think, Chris joined the show and asked the question. He was like, well, who's the odd man out? And my response it's Hoseong Kim. He's the odd man out. Unfortunately, I don't know why. And here's the deal. People are just assume that Xander Bogaerts could be traded. He ain't getting traded. He's got a full no trade clause. He's making $25 million a year. Nobody's going to take his contract. And he is not so bad that it is better for the Padres to pay the $25 million for him to play for somebody else. You can't make that happen. Can't make that happen. I mean, it's hilarious. I mean, somebody's like, well, just trade X. He's fine. We've seen enough. It's been a year and a couple of months. He hit 270-something last year. It's not like he was a pushover. That's a great clubhouse guy and contributor. He's going to figure it out. His track record says so compared to the other player who had one good year. Xander, on the other hand, has had multiple good years, 4-time All-Star, MVP votes multiple times. He has won the Silver Slugger 5 times, 4-time All-Star, 2-time World Series champion. He's going to figure it out. You can't just depart. It's like, oh, yeah, well, he's hitting 216 right now. We'll send him off. But as a lot of people in the chat are starting to realize, you can't fall in love with ball players, and just because he was been a great time with the Pods doesn't mean he needs to be signed to a contract extension. If you could give him a contract extension that's like $7 million a year, go for it. But that's not what he's going to sign for. He's got to get $150 million. He might even get more. I mean, if you look at the shortstops in Major League Baseball, Seager's getting $35 million, Correa's getting $33, Francisco Lindor's getting $32, Trey Turner's getting $27, Mookie Betts is getting $26, Dansby Swanson's getting $26, Javier Baez is getting $25, Trevor Story's getting $22.5, Willie Adames for the Brewers is getting $12.2, and Bo Bichette's getting $12. Those are all going to go up, by the way. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even know really if Bo Bichette might have got signed early on one of these team friendly deals. I'm not inclined with the Toronto Blue Jays figures. Yeah, they gave him a 3-year, $33.6 million, and they paid for through his age 28 season, and at the end of that, he's a free agent, which means they might let him go. I mean, look at Atlanta. I think Atlanta's the best example of teams that do things right, that don't spend a ton on players, and don't fall in love with players. They let Freddie Freeman walk after he won them a World Series. They let him walk. Dansby Swanson was the guy that they traded for from Arizona. They gave a lot up for him. He was their shortstop on a World Series team. They let him walk. Dansby Swanson is a better player than Hoseong Kim. And the Braves, who have won a World Series more recently than the Padres, who has been a team that's made the playoffs each and every year, who has been arguably one of the best teams in the National League each and every year, has let Dansby Swanson walk, and he has more accolades than Hoseong Kim. In fact, he's a pretty comparable player in some aspects. They let him walk. You guys can let Hoseong Kim walk at the end of the year. But this is not even a conversation we really need to have yet. We'll see what the Padres decide to do with Kim. But I just understand some things of what he's potentially going to get, what his contract's going to be, and whether or not you want to spend that on a guy that just plays defense. Because the justification for everybody in the chat on YouTube has been like, well, he plays great defense. Nobody's saying he's not. I mean, Andrelton Simmons plays great defense too. I'm not giving that guy a gigantic contract. They should have traded Kim during the offseason. But here we are. I don't want to spend too much money on Kim. This doesn't need to be the Hoseong Kim hate show because that's not what it is. But just in terms of the future, he's the odd man out. And that was one of the questions with Luis Arraez. I mean, I think in an ideal world, Arraez plays first, Cronenworth's at second, Bogaerts is back to short, Manny's at third. And to be honest with you, that could be, and it's so far away, that could be your opening day infield in 2025. It could. I mean, I know Cronenworth's a great first baseman, but the kid, he's older than me. He is a shortstop. He's a shortstop by trade. Of course he's going to be good at first base. Of course he is. So, lots to do with this Padres team with the new pickup. I still think they got a couple of guys away, and I think they're going to address that potentially at the trade deadline. For all of you that likes to go out there and play a little GM, if you want to start looking for trade pieces, start looking for guys that are on arbitration deals or very young on really bad teams. That is where you're going to be able to find a gem that could fit in this team. Because, again, they have spent all this time in trying to stay underneath the CBT. They're not going to give that up because they want to reset the luxury tax. And both of these moves that the Padres have made, with the Dylan Cease trade, with the Luis Arraez trade, they've been able to do that. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get back to some of your phone calls. Again, all of you waiting in the chat, I see them all. Thanks again. If you're on YouTube, please hit the like button on the stream. Helps with the algorithm. Let's pump this show out as much as we can all over the place. Really appreciate all of you guys making our day a part of yours. Let's go out to Bob in Forest Ranch. You're on the line on the Braden Surprenant Show. Bob, what's going on?
Hey, so I'm a huge Kim fan. I mean, the way he plays ball, I just love the way he brings it every day. I mean, he is the definition of a baller. But he's going to be gone at the trade deadline. And that was obvious with the starting lineup on day one. When they moved Bogaerts to second and Kim to short, that was for one reason only, and that's because shortstops attract more talent than second basemen. And so they're showcasing him at short. Last year, his thing was second. I think that's the only thing missing in your analysis. Other than that, I think it's spot on. But I agree with you. He will not be here in August, and I'll put money on that.
That's a big prediction there from Bob. I thought they were going to trade him during the offseason, but I do agree with the showcase thing. I think they did that with Graham Pauley as well a little bit, and I think they're doing that with some of their other players that they're moving up very quickly. But I appreciate the phone call from Bob in Forest Ranch, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not solely in on that just because. I mean, for a couple of things, I think it's going to be really hard to, if you are in contention, which I think the Padres will be, especially after this trade, to part ways with a fan favorite at the deadline. That's going to be a tough sell. And I know the Padres do worry about that sometimes. I think it's a tough sell. I just think they're going to let him walk at the end of the year. I mean, I don't know who's going to be in the shortstop market unless, here's the deal, unless you can flip Hoseong Kim to it's a hard trade partner, right? Because you got to find a team that is somewhat close to contention that wants to have Kim as their shortstop of the future, but is willing to part ways with like a major league arm or something. So you're going to have to find a team that could use Kim as their shortstop for the future, but also has something that can bring you a contributor. Maybe you trade him for a rental. I think you could probably trade him for a rental arm somewhere and be like, all right, here, you take this guy in the last deal. We'll take this rental, and you could kind of flip some beneficial pieces. But I think it might be difficult to potentially pick that up. I mean, those are the teams you'd have to find. The teams that are interested in investing in Hoseong Kim for a long period of time. I mean, maybe it's the Giants. I know a lot of connections with the Giants. Are you going to make a trade? Are you going to give the Giants Hoseong Kim at the deadline? I don't know. I think they should have traded him during the offseason. I was surprised that he wasn't part of the Marlins trade. But I mean, obviously with the Marlins, they're in a position right now where, I mean, I don't know what they're doing. They made the playoffs. Like, they were not that far off from being, I mean, Kim Ng had that team trending in the right direction with the manager of the year last year in Skip Schumacher. They just lost to the Athletics last night 20-4. And I know the A's are hot, but how can you disastrously blow that thing up so fast with a young team? Unbelievable. I do want to play, and I didn't have time before, but kind of the perspective from the Marlins. This is their president of baseball operations, by the way. His name is Peter Bennix, and he is one of those whiz kid GM. Came in as an intern, very smart. He's got an analytical degree from an Ivy League school. And, this is an excerpt from him talking with the lead play-by-play man of the Marlins on the Marlins radio network, talking about some of the moves, or talking about this move for Miami. I mean, Padres fans, aren't you glad that this guy's not the president of baseball ops here?
With Marlins president of baseball operations, Peter Bendix. Peter, I know you had an early flight out here this morning. I know these circumstances are probably relatively difficult. The news that Luis Arraez has been dealt to the San Diego Padres. Could you take us through the timeline on how this came together?
Yeah, it came together very slowly and then quickly at the end, as these conversations tend to happen. It came together in the last 24 hours where things really picked up to the point where there was a deal on the table that we felt like we had to say yes to.
May 3rd is early. I would like to ask you if the team record has dictated maybe a move this early in the season.
It has opened us up to the possibility. When you have the record that we have, the frustrating start that we have to take the incoming calls and we have to listen. And ultimately, we have to be open to moves that are going to help us in the long term.
You are one of 30. I would say the job, you have to have very little emotion when you do it. And this is a young man that the fan base obviously very emotional over, and Luis meant a lot to this fan base. Does that make the move even more difficult for you?
Incredibly so. He's a phenomenal player, but he's maybe an even better person. Great family man, great teammate, great in the clubhouse. All of those things made this an extremely difficult move.
The move now in trading Luis Arraez, there are obviously other players. It's easy to look on this roster and say there might be value there. Do you think this has opened the door to more things to come as it pertains to players with value on this roster right now?
We're always going to listen. We're always going to have those conversations. We can't cut ourselves off from any possibilities that we think can help us get the organization to where we want to go.
Now, as for some of these players, a couple of very, very young players, Woo-Suk Go, maybe a guy that could help you sooner rather than later, and a college kid in there as well. Would you mind telling us a little bit about the haul that you got in return from San Diego?
Yeah, it's 3 position players. Dylan Head is the youngest, 19 and a half years old, first-round pick from the Padres last year. Very athletic player, one of the fastest players in the minor leagues. Jacob Marcy is another outfielder who was in Double-A. Very well-rounded player, good defender, good base runner, excellent plate discipline. Nathan Martorella, first baseman, occasionally in the outfield. He can really hit, got a lot of power. And then Woo-Suk Go, the reliever that was just signed out of Korea this offseason.
And before we let you go, Peter, you grew up a fan of baseball. We're all fans.
I don't want to listen to that last part. That guy got fleeced. I'm sorry. that guy got A.J. Preller so bad. I mean, are you kidding me, this guy? You had a good young team. What are you doing? Look, if you're going to make all of those moves, fine. I don't mind that, right? I mean, the Marlins, you're not expected to compete. You got off to a bad start. You had the circus situation. Kim Ng leaves because, he basically demoted her, which I thought was ridiculous. Skip Schumacher Did a great job last year. I mean, but they're off to an atrocious start because they're not very good. Because they screwed up during the offseason. And now it's getting even worse. And maybe in 6 years, this guy will laugh at all of us for his great plan that he put together. But, I mean, are you kidding me? It's one thing to make this move and make it a salary deal. You know what? We're not winning in the next 2 years with Luis Arraez on the team. He's a luxury we can't afford. Let's get rid of him. But then on top of that, they're like, here, we're going to pay for his contract. What? Thank you. They're like 6 or 7 years away from being good. We'll take it. I mean, if you're the Padres, you'll take it. That's why A.J. Preller jumped on this so early. Saved some money on this trade. It was fantastic. They saved money. Their payroll lowered on the trade. I can't believe it. I couldn't believe that. The Padres lowered their payroll in acquiring a player that is the best hitter in baseball. Unbelievable. I think the Padres are going to go back to spending a little bit after they reset the CBT, and this move is definitely in that spot to reset the CBT. But, I mean, that not only do you trade Luis Arraez, did you see Luis's face when he got to the Padres dugout? Did you see it? That guy had a new lease on life. He was so excited. He's like, I'm finally out of here. I went from a team that's 9-26, even though it's not even like the Padres are in first place. They're 18-18. They still got a lot of work to do. But Luis Arraez went from the worst team, second to worst team, I guess. The Rockies are 8-25. 2 of those wins are against the Padres. I digress. He went from one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball to a team that's contending, and he makes a team a contender. I mean, I don't know what they're doing, dude. I don't know what they're doing. This lineup is so much better, Padres fans, than just like 3 days ago. I mean, the holes are now in different spots. I talked about that before with lineup construction. And every time that you try to like formulate a lineup for the Padres, I had the same answer every time. You don't have a 4, 5, or 6 hitter on this team. I mean, you just didn't. You don't have that. When the Padres went to the NLCS a couple of years ago, I mean, they got guys like Brandon Drury and Josh Bell hitting like 5 and 6 and 7 in the order. And Kim's batting 9. Right? Or Profar could bat 9. Those are the type of players that are batting lower in the order on World Series caliber teams. You didn't have that, but now, I mean, you got Bogarts batting 6th. You're getting closer. Hoseong Kim is a 9-hitter. Good. Hoseong Kim is a 5-hitter. You're in trouble. Nothing to do with Hoseong Kim, but in perspective of everybody else's lineup. But we talked, that was literally the conversation I had last weekend with you guys. When the Phillies came in and kicked the Padres' ass. What did I say? I said their lineup is way better than the Padres' lineup. Way better. Wasn't even a contest. They have, and I know Nick Castellanos is having a bad year, but they had Nick Castellanos batting 7. Padres had Eggy Rosario batting 7th. Eggy Rosario should probably be in AAA. I like Eggy. I like the way he swings the bat, but he probably should be in AAA. He's not on a playoff lineup. He's not coming off the bench on a playoff team. But now you add Rise, and you start looking at this. I mean, I don't know how many times when the Padres played the Marlins, you're like, we're not getting this guy out. Late in the game, especially how bad the Padres have played in Miami, there's been a couple of times you're sitting there going like, oh, Arraez is up and it's the 9th inning. It's a 1-run game. This isn't going to end well for us. Grinds out at bats, fouls pitches off, finds a way on base. He gets the lead off for the Padres now. That's a tough ask, especially since number 2 in the order is Fernando. And then you got Here's the other thing, too. I think Jake Cronenworth's doing a great job. I would be, here's my bet with you. I would be shocked if the Padres made the playoffs and Jake Cronenworth was the three hitter for the Padres in a playoff game. I would be shocked. I think he's doing fantastic. But to me, Jake Cronenworth on a playoff team is like a 5 or a 6 hitter, the way he's playing right now. He's doing a great job, and I know they're trying to protect him with the other guys in the lineup, but on a playoff team, he's hitting 5 or 6. So there's still some holes that the Padres need to fill, but they're doing this team is already way better than it was a week ago, just with the addition of Arraez. Now they have to take care of business today against Arizona. Matt Waldron needs to pick up where the other starters have left off this week. I mean, we've seen that with the rotation. It's been a lot of this. And unfortunately, it's been like good week, bad week. Not like good start, bad start. Good week, bad week. Right now, we're on a good week. Diamondbacks already put their lineup out. Padres still waiting to put theirs out. Want to get more of your phone calls? 833-288-0973. We got Ben online. We got Brandon online. Stay there. We're going to get to you when we come back. This is the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local, each and every Sunday morning on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Welcome back to the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every Sunday morning from 8 to 10, talking a lot of Padres baseball. Big win last night for the Pods, won 13-1 over the Arizona Diamondbacks, going for a sweep on a Sunday. It'd be nice to sweep the Diamondbacks today in a place that has been a house of horrors for them. They have kicked the Rattlebacks' ass all weekend, and I hope they continue to do that again today. Really sets the tone and really sends a message to Arizona that last year was a fluke for them. I think it kind of was a fluke. I mean, I don't know. They've looked awful this weekend. I mean, you see Ketel Marte yesterday, like taking a wide turn on a single and just hosed by Fernando. We'll see you, Ketel. Thanks. I mean, Arizona's looked bad. I mean, they're 14-20 now. They're 6 games under 500. I mean, the Padres could potentially put them out of their misery early in the season with a sweep today. It'd be nice. Obviously, there's still a lot of time left in Major League Baseball, and they got some injuries hurting them right now. But it's not who you play; it's when you play them. And the Padres got to jump on this early because they got to do a lot better in the division. Before this weekend, they were exactly 500 in the division. A winning record against the Dodgers, losing record against the Giants, split with the Rockies, and now up 2 games on Arizona. Be nice to get a sweep of the Diamondbacks. That's what good teams do. They find ways to sweep. They rack up some sweeps every once in a while. They go on some long runs. But let's get it going here, Padres. And I'm excited with this line. I can't wait to watch this lineup again after last night. I mean, keep it going. Keep it going. Luis Arraez at the top. Guys found a new lease on life. Thanks again for all of you joining us on YouTube and on the radio, as well as Twitter, Instagram. We appreciate you chiming in. If you haven't done it already, give us a like on the YouTube stream. Really helps us out. Really appreciate that. If you like more of the content, you can also follow me on YouTube at B_SURP. You can follow me on Instagram at B_SURP. On X, B_SURP. Get all your Padres fix and anything reporting on the show. We do this each and every Sunday morning. It's a great time. Love talking Padres baseball on the weekends. A lot better than the national noise. I do want to get to more of your phone calls. Let's start out with Brandon in El Cajon. Brandon, what's going on?
Hey, good morning. Like your show, man. You got to take over the show during the week, too.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Brandon.
Hey, I'm usually a pretty big critic. I've been kind of almost angry at the Padres for a long time, but after the last few games, I'm going to be a positive guy today, especially what you were just talking about, Nando picking off Marte when he took a big turn at first. That is a great thing to see from an outfielder.
Yeah, that's a great heads-up play, and his ability to show off his arm and show off his skills in right field is phenomenal, and that's what good teams do. They take advantage of bad teams making mistakes.
Yeah, and that's why he's a great right fielder, and he's a better right fielder than he was a shortstop because of the throwing. That's a fun thing to see. It's an outfielder pick someone off from the outfield. Great thing.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Also, that I'm not a Preller fan, and still am not. But this kid he just got. What you need in Petco is people hitting line drives. There's one of the things the Padres have had a problem with for years is the warning track fly ball outs. You got to hit line drives there, and that was great to see last night, spraying it all over the field. If they play like that in Petco, they'll win a lot more games.
I would agree with you. I mean, most of the guys that have had success at Petco Park, especially with the configurations in the marine layer, are guys that are gap-to-gap hitters, line drive hitters, doubles hitters. I mean, those guys flourish at Petco Park. And when you're trying to put the ball out there, it's very difficult, and it could really suck the wind out of your sails. But that's why I think it's going to be fun to see Luis Arraez swing at Petco Park. We never got to see Tony Gwynn swing at Petco Park, and I know he gets a lot of comparisons, so I guess this will be the closest we get to see, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, that's what they need to do. Like even the other night, that great line drive home run Manny had. Hitting line drives, if you get a hold of one, it'll go out. But yeah, in Petco that's what looks good there. One more thing real quick is I'd like to see him keep Kim and find a way to get rid of Bogarts. Nothing against Bogarts. They just never needed him. And then the long-term contract, they're going to eat that money one way or another. They they got to keep Kim and get rid of Bogarts.
They're not going to get rid of Bogarts, Brandon. It's impossible. I mean, it's just it's just impossible, man. I mean, it's just so they're not going to get rid of him. He's on the team. Yeah. He's got a full no trade. He's getting paid way too much money. They're not. He's not going anywhere. So you better start rooting for the guy to do well because you're stuck with him.
Yeah, I root for him to do well. I don't dislike him. I just thought that was one of the biggest mistakes Preller has made, giving him the long-term contract. That's why he had to extend Manny, because he did that. And, it's just I still would get rid of Preller. Anyways, I wanted to be a positive guy today because they looked good the last few games. I went last Monday, and they stunk, and they've been good ever since. And so I thought I'd call in and be a positive guy today. The line drive hitting and that they should put Provar in the 2 spot and move Nando to number 3.
That's not a bad move. I think the best option is still have Fernando at leadoff, but that was before they acquired Luis Arraez. So now I think you can leave him at the 2 spot. But appreciate the phone call. Let's go up to Chino, California. Ben's wants to weigh in on the Padres. Ben, what's going on?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. A little bit weather kind of sucks down here today, but other than that, it's pretty good.
I just want to add on to what everyone else is saying, man. The show is freaking awesome. You're going to end up taking over one of the day shows in the future.
Well, I appreciate that.
You're welcome. So I just wanted to talk about we were talking about the 17-game winning streak with Mike Schilt with the Cardinals, and I feel like we're still going to do it, man. What do you think?
Oh, that would be kind of nice. I mean, that's very hard to replicate. It's a different team. They had their backs against the wall too, right? Trying to get into the postseason. I'm going to tell you right now. I mean, here's the thing, Ben. When it comes to baseball, and over 162, it could get lost. But the majority of teams play 500 ball, and then the ones that make the playoffs go on a long winning streak of some kind. Not a lot of teams play at a 700 clip. So if the Padres, let's say right now, let's say if the Padres they've already won 4. Let's say they win 14 straight. And they'll be, that would put them 10 games over 500. They play 500 the rest of the way. They're in the playoffs. They just got to play 500 the rest of the way. So if you could build yourself to that spot, you could kind of, not to say you want to cruise because nobody wants to cruise, but that's a lot of these teams. I mean, teams that are in contention late in the year, they went on some type of long streak. And then they played 500 ball the rest of the way, and then go for it for the playoffs. But if Mike Schilt could do that with these guys, that would be awesome.
Yeah, it would. And I'm sorry, San Diego, but hey, Braden's completely right. Kim is probably a goner, and Bogarts is not going anywhere as well. That's completely right too.
Well, Ben, I appreciate the phone call. You have a good day.
You too, man.
I'll go over to Evan in Carlsbad. Evan, what's going on?
Hey, Braden, how you doing? Thank you for taking my call. Shout out Scraby and the Scrabinators.
The Scrabinators.
Fearless Tie 10 leader.
Are you a part?
Tie 10 champion.
Are you a part of the Scrabinators?
I'm Evan Bot, part of the nucleus.
Oh wow, wow! I don't go into the weeds with the Scrabinators. There's a lot of conspiracies that happen during those. So, but I'm blessed to be talking to a Scrabinator. I love it.
Well, I love the show, and you're a great guy, and you have interesting takes all the time. But I'll get to my point. I have 2 interesting points. One, Jurickson Profar is batting 7th with his batting average, and Juan Soto is 13th. Now, an explanation as to why I think this is happening is from the Annie and Elston featuring Braden Surprenant show, when you were talking about hittable fastballs over 96 miles an hour. So I think the Padres are getting really fast fastballs that they can't hit. So they're all this batting slump it's gonna even out, and that's why we're seeing such good hitting now in the past 2 games against Diamondbacks. Is we didn't have to face Gallen, and now we've got Luis Arraez, who can probably just nail any fastball over 96. I couldn't have seen a better signing. I mean, applaud the signing, applaud Jurickson Profar, and I hope we hit more fastballs. And that's really all I got.
Well, Evan, I appreciate the phone call, absolutely. And, I hope Padres have notoriously the last couple of years been a team that can't hit a fastball, which is surprising to me. But Luis Arraez can, and that's great to see him part of this lineup. I love it. And the thing with Profar, as Evan was laying out, I mean, he's got, in his career, he's got the same numbers as Fernando against a fastball. Dude can rake a fastball. He's done an outstanding job with the Padres this year. I don't know if he could keep it up. I keep saying that, and he keeps proving me wrong. So if he has a career year this year for $1 million, Padres are in really good shape. He's going to come back down to earth eventually, but keep riding the train. Keep playing the hot hand. Let's go. We are hitting on these plays. Keep it going. Keep it rolling. I want to get back to more of your phone calls when we come back. We got to take one more break, one more segment left on the Braden Surprenant Show. Appreciate all of you joining us today. I'm Braden Surprenant, 97.3 The Fan, San Diego's #1 sports station. Braden Surprenant Show live and local each and every Sunday morning. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Thanks for all of you making my day a part of yours. We really appreciate it on YouTube. We appreciate it on the radio. Thanks again. If you haven't done it yet, you YouTube guys and gals, give us a like on the YouTube page. Really appreciate that. Everybody else driving around town, you can follow me on social media at @B_SURP. Follow me on Twitter, X, whatever, Instagram, TikTok, and I'm on YouTube page as well at @B_SURP. Padres baseball coming up at 1:10 p.m. Pacific time pregame show. Eco Water SoCal pregame show with Sam Levitt at 12:10. That's coming up very shortly here on 97.3 The Fan. And hopefully the Padres can get the sweep. I want to get back to your phone calls as well. What do you want to know? Or what do you guys think about the Luis Arraez trade? I love it, personally. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Let's get out to the phones again. We got Kevin down in Chula Vista wanting to weigh in. Kevin, long time no talk. What's going on?
Mr. Surprenant, my pleasure and honor to talk with the best talk show on the 97.3 lineup. So thanks for taking my call.
Well, I appreciate that. What do you got for me today?
Hey, look, first impressions. I was stunned by the bat speed of Luis Arraez. I had never really paid much attention to him, obviously because he was, down in Miami and other places. And that just stunned me last night to watch the control and the fast bat that he has, which the Padres, I can't remember when they've had such an effective leadoff hitter, maybe going back to possibly Alan Wiggins. I know Tony Gwynn loved Alan Wiggins hitting in front of him because Alan would always get on base somehow, and Tony would have the RBI opportunity back in the day. So, from that aspect, I was absolutely taken aback last night. I don't know how you all feel, but here's the question I posed to Scraby last week. I'll put it to you. See what you think. So let's just assume maybe that Profar has this breakout season and he hits well above his 239 lifetime. So if you're the Padres, the last time they went up against Jurickson on a contract, he asked for something like $10 million, if I remember correctly. So what do you do with Jurickson? Do you extend him on a more lucrative contract, or how do you approach this with him?
I personally, and it's funny, like somebody else asked me this too. I honestly, I'm giving him a 2-year team-friendly deal, and if he signs it, great, and if not, I think you wish him luck again, because it's the same thing when we were talking about earlier in the show. I don't know if you heard about with the Hoseong Kim thing. I mean, even though he has a career year, the way that you have your contracts right now, you can't emotionally bring back a guy because of him being a fan favorite or for vibes or anything like that. I do think there's something to be said about, is he the anti-typical Padre? I mean, how many times have you seen the Padres bring in a guy that actually does, like, that comes to the Padres and is immediately worse than what he was anywhere else, and then he goes away and he kicks ass again? Jurickson Profar is one of the only players that comes to San Diego, dominates, leaves, stinks, comes back, and turns into another dominant player. But I think he's valuable to San Diego. I don't think he's valuable to other teams. I think he learned his lesson the last time. I'm not saying you lowball him, but I think you got to give him a fair offer for what he is and what he's done, what his career is, and not what he has done just this year. So I would give him I honestly would probably give him $7 to $8 million max, which is kind of around what you had him on the last time. And if he wants to go chase money again and be miserable somewhere else like he was last year in Colorado, I think you let him, because I really don't think the Padres have a luxury to sign guys like Profar, like Kim, to these long-term contract extensions, because they've already really used their allotment on that.
Yeah, points well taken. I was thinking more, and I don't know if this is crazy or not, but I would go two years at five each. And
I think that's fair too. Yeah. I mean, my max would be like 7 or 8, but even then would be kind of expensive.
Right, and then maybe a club option somewhere on the third. I don't know, but something along those lines. I think he's got his 10 years in, so I think that helps him on retirement, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's fair. So I think just to wrap it up, I think I'm kind of like with a lot of folks. I'd like to see one more starting pitcher get in here, just because you have the two older guys at the front who you never know where their injuries are going to lead them to. I think that depth in starting pitching is always something that I think they'll be looking at maybe around the trade deadline if they're still in this thing. So, it's good vibes right now. So enjoy the ride and let's see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Kevin, appreciate the phone call.
All right, you too. Take care, mate.
I totally agree. I mean, this move of the salary, it's a salary dump. As dumb as that sounds, the Padres bought and cut money on this Luis Arraez deal, which means they got more up their sleeve. They have more money to spend and stay underneath the luxury tax, which is where they need to be, right? They want to be able to end the season underneath the luxury tax, so it resets, and so the penalties next year, if they do spend money, are not ridiculous. The luxury tax threshold that they're trying to stay under is $237 million. They are currently at $224 million this year in luxury tax payroll, which includes a lot of different things, including money owed to Eric Hosmer and $1.5 million to Matt Carpenter and yada, yada, yada. So that gives them $13 million to work with. $13 million with the prospect capital you have. And with a little bit of leeway, they have room to potentially add some pieces. But again, I think they're going to be getting guys that are pre-arb or arbitration eligible, that by that time of the year, half of their contract's already paid, and you're trying to find some upgrades that way. I really like the two guys in Oakland. I don't, whether or not the Padres can pull that off would be pretty awesome, to say the least. Lucas Erceg has been outstanding. I don't know why the A's would want to get rid of him, aside from the fact that they don't want to win. And I think anybody's on the table with them. But he's getting league minimum $750,000. Like that. Those are the type of players that you're going to have to go after. Like guys on the A's that are kicking ass that they don't really care about. I mean, Ross Stripling's the highest paid player on the Athletics. He's getting 12.5. So I think that might be the way. You got to go find some starting pitching that is a rental, maybe. I mean, I know those are bullpen arms, but you're looking at players that are going to keep you underneath the luxury tax, because if you go this entire way without being over the luxury tax and then you blow it at the trade deadline, then you could have just said, F it, we could have went out and grabbed a bunch of players during the offseason and spent the money anyway. So those are the type of players you're going to have to find. Like I had somebody tell me, like, oh, wouldn't it be nice if the Padres go trade for like Seth Lugo? Yeah, I guess, but he's getting 15 this year and next year and a year after that. I mean, there's a reason why they didn't sign him to begin with, based on money. So I don't know if I know they made some offers, but, maybe Seth Lugo at the deadline, when he's about $7 million or $8 million left in this year towards the luxury tax, you can bring him back and lengthen that rotation out a little bit. But I think the Royals are going to be, I don't necessarily know they're going to be sellers at the deadline. I mean, why would you sell that guy? He's under contract for the next couple of years. You got a young team with Bobby Witt Jr. and you're playing really good. But you got to go find some pitcher that's kind of middle of the road, or some young guy that hasn't reached free agency yet, like a Dylan Cease that they already acquired. But I agree. You do need a little bit more pitching. I still think you need another bat. But this trade that the Padres made addressed some needs, and it also saved you money. I can't believe how it saved them money. I don't know what the Marlins are doing. Are they run by the Atlanta Falcons? I mean, what are they doing? I understand the trading of Luis Arraez when you're not going to compete during the 2 years that you have left of him under control. I get that. But to pay for the majority of his contract in the process, That's insanity to me. Insanity. I can't believe it. We got time for one more phone call. Kevin and Santee, what's going on? We got about a minute left.
Hey, Braden. Hey, buddy. Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday to you. You going to get some tacos today for Cinco de Mayo? I know you're a big Taco
Yeah.
Tuesday guy.
I won't wait for Taco Tuesday. I'll go ahead and grab a couple today.
All right. What's going on, Kevin?
Hey, Arias, legit. Way to set a record. Way to come into town and swing level and make those hits happen. Real quick, what about that pitcher for the Angels that threw a couple days ago? Really strong, solid pitcher. God, it's eluding me his name right now, but he pitched the day before last for the Angels.
I'd have to go look up to see who pitched for him real quick. But is he a starter, you said?
Starter, yeah. Yeah, he threw good, really kind of big, solid guy. Sorry I didn't have my my stats with me, but oh well. I know we're in a minute. Dude, I listen to you every day, and go Pots.
I appreciate that, Kevin. Thanks again for contributing. That's going to have to wait until the next time while I go look up to see who pitched for him. Griffin Canning? Is that what you're talking about? Was it Griffin Canning? No, he's going today. Friday's game. We're going to run out of time. I'm going to try to find this Angels pitcher real quick. Soriano? Maybe? I don't know. 6-0 victory for the Angels on that day. Padres baseball, they just put the lineup out. Go check social media for that. Sam Levitt coming up at 11:10. This is Braden Surprenant. Braden Surprenant Show. See you next week.